Printers, printers, printers. Oh my, I have 4 printers. Do I need 4 printers? I have specific printers for certain systems, and I'm really getting tired of having all these printers nearby that I have to hook up and plug in, and I'm thinking I would like to keep one printer nearby on the bench that I can use for basically all my systems. So let's take a look at what I have and figure out which printer I should keep on the bench. Stick around. I want to do a shout out to everyone watching, my Patreon members, subscribers, and viewers like you. I really appreciate you coming. Now let's get back to the video. Okay, the first printer we have here is the K-Pro. This is called the K-Pro Letter Quality Printer. It's a very large printer. It's a daisy wheel printer, meaning that it prints really nice quality. It prints bidirectionally, so I can use it for printing really good quality letters or whatever. Let's spin it around a bit here. This is made by Juki, as Juki. It's a Juki 6100 printer, but badged for K-Pro, and has a Centronics parallel port on the back. Now, this printer is, for me, I believe it's a rare piece of vintage equipment, because I have not seen any other K-Pro related printers. And I also have a K-Pro video, which this matches up nicely, but I'll be doing one in the future showing this one off with the K-Pro. Next here we have is the ImageWriter II from Apple. The ImageWriter is a serial printer, runs off on RS-232, and I use that on my Mac Color Classic. I could also use that with my Apple IIe. As the IIe, I have a serial card which I can then plug into that and print on that too. The next printer here is one of my printers that I used to, well, it's not the original, but it's the printer I used back in the 80s with my Apple II Plus. It's the Star NX1000. The NX1000 is a parallel printer. It's got a Centronics connector, just like the K-Pro printer. It's really nice, really smaller form factor, and not as back-breaking as the other two. These ones are really heavy, but this one is smaller and very good quality print. The next printer I have is this one here. Let me just see if I can adjust the camera a bit for you. This is the Commodore MPS1250 printer. This printer is a rebadge of a Citizen printer, just like the K-Pro was a rebadge of a Juki printer. This printer is quite nice. It's missing the lid, which I'll be getting hopefully soon. This printer was kindly donated to the channel by David Bradley, the 8-bit Commodore man. I'll leave a link to his video in the description. So as we see, we have a small printer, medium, larger, and the supersized printers here. But regardless of size and quality of print, I want to pick one printer I can use with all my systems. So my Apple II, my Commodore VIC20, my Commodore 64, Commodore PET, the TI-99-4A, the Atari 600 XL, etc. As you know, on this channel, I don't just subscribe to one vintage computers. I like all vintage computers. So I want a printer that can go, it could be used for all or many of the vintage computers that I have. So let's take a closer look at this printer, and you'll see in a moment why I want to take a closer look at this one. The Commodore MPS1250 hooked up. I just got power to it and some paper. Let's just do some tests. On the side here is the power button, so let's flick that on, and we can see the head moves. I did buy a new ribbon for this printer. The Citizen brand printers have the same ribbon, so I just found the place and bought one, and so we can get some nice print on this. Now this printer, initially when I got it, wasn't working. The paper out light kept coming on and the printer wouldn't do anything. So in the back there's a little switch that detects when paper's inserted, and the printer was not detecting the paper because that switch was dirty. So a little bit of deoxit, cleaned it up, pushed the button, the lever back and forth a few times, and now it's working. So we're good. So let's power it off and do a self-test. So it's powered off. To do a self-test, we just hold the form feed button down and we power it back up. And you can let go. Now at this point you can see the printer is actually doing the print test, which is good. We want to see if it's actually working. Alright, I stopped that because it's getting loud. The cover's not on it and that'll reduce the sound. So let's actually let me turn it back on. Offline, and then you can do form feed. So what do we have here? We have the Commodore MPS1250, it says on here, Epson ASCII2 mode version 1.34 test print, and then, you know, characters. And I only stopped it because I don't want to do a whole page of printing. It'll keep going until you turn it off. Now the interesting thing is, why does it say Epson ASCII mode? Well, that's a good question. Let's answer it. The printer is neat because it has this really cool, is that showing up? Yes. It has this really cool additional card you can get, or came with it for the Commodore. And it's got a Centronics parallel port, and it has a serial port. Now, this serial port is not your standard RS-232. No, because Commodore had to do something different. They use their own, I believe it was IDE, IDC, can't remember, serial connection. So if you want to plug this into, let's say the Apple II Plus or the Color Classic I have, those are RS-232. So you need an adapter that would plug in from here and convert this signal to an RS-232. However, my Apple II Plus does have a parallel card. It's the Grappler 2 Plus card, and it can plug in here. The other thing you can plug in here would be my an IBM PC and my K-Pro. So let's pull now this card. You can just grab from the bottom and just pull it out. Let's take a look at this card. Let's see, that's showing up. Okay, so this adapter board allows you to select different switches for different functionality. The main one is switch 1, which is for serial or parallel. Now, by default, these printers came with the parallel port enabled, which is very strange because all the Commodore computers, like the C64 and the VIC20, C128, all come with the serial port. So you'd think that they would have the serial port enabled, but they didn't. So it's just a matter of flicking a switch. It's too bad that you can't have both enabled, so that you can have both, like let's say the VIC20 plugged into the serial and a Apple II plugged into the parallel, and depending which one is printing, you would, you know, pick whatever. But that's okay because it's this card or this adapter that allows me to use many computers with one printer. So this is set, and I'm just going to plug it back into the slot. So here's the slot on the side. This just slides in like so, and you push it until it's all the way in, and now you're set for printing. So let's take a look at what other computers could use this printer, and then after that we're going to plug in the 2E, do a little print, and then I'll plug in a VIC20 and do a print and see how it goes. So before we actually get into the printing aspects, I just want to show you a bit of the documentation. This is the Commodore MPS1250 user manual, and here is some information from the wiki. This says the MPS1200, but this is the MPS1250, which is basically it's the same printer with slightly improvements. MPS stands for Matrix Printer System. Interesting name. The printer is prints matrix print and friction feed. It's a 9x9 dot matrix with the 17 for draft, and for NLQ for near letter quality it's 17x17. Character height 3.1 millimeters, rows 80 columns. It emulates the Commodore and the Epson FX85. So this is the main thing. This is the serial parallel port or Centronics port, and the Commodore is for the serial port. Speed is 120 characters per second in draft quality mode, and 24 characters per second in near letter quality mode. Now, why would you have two modes? Well, if you're printing something off that's not your final document, but you just want to check to see what it looks like on paper, you can print it in draft quality, so it prints faster and it also uses less ribbon. It's not as predominant on the page, it's more lighter. And then when you're all good and set with the printout, you can then print it off with near letter quality mode. It prints in bi-directional, so that means it prints left to right and then right to left. There's a tractor mode, a manual feed mode, and roller with roller paper. Ink is 2-part cartridge with exchangeable ink reservoir. I haven't seen that inside, I don't know. Paper width is 4.5 to 8 inches in width. Copies and carbon copies, original plus 2 carbon copies. Back in the day, you could actually print multiple copies. So let's say you're creating a form for a business and you need to have multiple copies. Well, that's where you would use the carbon copy type paper, so it would print on the one side, but it would then transfer that information to the second and to the third page. That way you can give one page for your accounting and one for the customer, one for yourself, or whatever you want to do with it. Graphics is dot matrix, 9 vertical dots, columns. It's 240 millimeters by 402 millimeters by 255 millimeters by 90 millimeters, and it weighs approximately 3.7 kilos or 8.2 pounds. Now the price on this unit, this is the 1200, but the 1250 is about the same. $999.95, which in 2020 was $712. So it wasn't a cheap printer back in the day. Most printers weren't all that cheap, but considering the fact that you got both serial and parallel, it was not a bad price. In the manual, it shows that you have 2 modes. We have the serial mode, like I pointed out, and the parallel mode. The serial port is on the side, just plug it in. I wanted to show this because this shows the cover, which I'm missing, but I will be getting soon. The serial has the Commodore mode and the Epson FX mode, so that means you can plug into another serial computer and use the FX mode. And the parallel has the IBM graphics mode and Epson mode. Now for IBM compatibles, you don't have to do anything, you just plug it in and it should work. However, if you need to, you can adjust the width within the actual program, either your DOS or your actual print program. You can make these settings. Here is the Apple II. So in this case, you would use PR number 1, and PR stands for the port. So if you have your printer parallel printer card, so like a Grappler Plus, and you plugged into slot 1, it would be PR number 1, and then your print statement, and then PR number 0. Now, PR number 1 turns on it tells the computer to use that port, so it's going to use the printer, and that would print the statement, and then PR number 0 means turn it off, so that any future print would not go to the printer, but go to your screen. And the same thing you can do here with basic programming. So if you have a program you can do and you want to list it, you can just do PR number 1, and then from that point on, anything you type will also be on your screen and on the printer. So you would do list, and then PR number 0 turn off that functionality. So now you can get a printout of your program. So it's great. So let's say you're working on some basic program code and you want to print out the review to see what's going on as opposed to sitting in front of the screen. Well, this is a great way to do it. Next is the TRS-80. You can just use these P commands to get the printer to work. And what else we have? We have the Atari computers. Again, this would, open hashtag 4,8,0, P, and then your print command, and then your close command to turn off the access to the printer. And finally, we have CPM computers, so the K-Pro, like the one I have, the Osborne, Monroe, Sanyo, and the Apple with the CPM card using MS Basic. You can, use this printer to print from those different computers, and including in this case the CPM. And finally, the manual has a lot more, but this is the most important section. It shows you the switches that I was showing or talking about earlier. You turn on and off the number 1 for serial or for parallel. You can have automatic line feed enabled, disabled, different configuration for printers, Epson FX1, 2, 3, and IBM printer graphics. That's explained later in the manual. You also have automatic form feed enabled, disabled, interrupt ASCII codes. If you want 0, it's unslashed or slash, print style, draft, or NLQ. So this would be for your draft. You just want to print something quick to see what it looks like, and then when you're done, you can just then flick the switch and get in your letter quality, and you have different pitches. So with that said, now let's hook up 2 computers and let's take a look what it looks like. Okay, I have everything set up now. I have the 2E powered up, or almost powered up. It's plugged into the Commodore MPS1250. I'm doing a capture. My capture device is acting weird, so it might be flashing a bit. But let's see if we can get through this. So let's turn it on. So let's turn on the 2E. Give it a moment to come up. And okay, so we have video here. So let's go down to my disks, and I'm gonna pick one of my disks that I created on here, and let's see if we can get the printer going. I'm going to turn on the printer, and it just moved. Now in my case, I have the card plugged into the slot 7 because my machine's full of stuff. You can plug the printer card into any slot you want. I have all my slots pretty much full, so 7 is available. So I put my printer card in there. Let me show you. So if I take the lid off and I go over here, we can see this card here. This card right there is the printer card, which is in slot 7. So you can use any slot you want except for 3 on a 2E, because slot 3 is used for video. Although in my computer I have the VGA adapter card, which converts VGA video, and that's sitting in slot 3. So basically all my slots are full. Now let's get back to the printer test. All right, so what do we have here? We have okay, let's do a list. And that's my little program that runs and shows up on that. So if I run it, it just does a little kind of Rudy Retro Intel kind of ASCII or whatever you want to call it art. And here is that set up. Now, to activate the printer on an Apple, you have to type in PR number sign and then the port. So because mine's in 7, we'll do PR number 7. Now, when I hit enter, the printer will just do a slight form feed. Don't know if you saw it, but it does do that. Now, if I do a list, as you can see, it's now printing the list of the program. And this is not too long, so below, there we go. So let's take this offline and do a form feed, and we can see that the program listed on the printer. I could also do a command like catalog. Now, the reason why it beeped is because I had the printer offline. When I turned it offline to do a line feed, the computer doesn't know what to do. It's just waiting. So once I turned it back online, I was able to get it going. As we see, we have syntax error that printed because I didn't tell it to close the port. It was still open when I turn the printer off. But when I turn it back on, it should be fine. So let's do a catalog. And now it's going to print all the programs on that disk. And there we go. We have it all printed on the screen and on the printer itself. Now to turn it off, we'll do PR number 0, which tells it not to use the printer. And now we're back. If we hit anything on here, it's not going to print. The printer kept going because when I stopped, there was still more to print, and it said, "Oh, there's still more to print." It printed it off and then closed the port. So now if I do a list again, it's showing on the screen, but it's not coming on the printer. So that's the Apple IIe on the parallel port. Now let's pull out the VIC20 and see if we can do a similar thing with the same printer, but on a VIC20. Alright, so I have the VIC20 set up here. The printer's all ready to go, except we have to change the switch on the card. So make sure it's powered off. We're going to pull out the card here, and I'm going to get a little doohickey here, or whatever you want to use. You can use a paper clip, or I'm using a screwdriver. So I've set the switch to 1, which is right here. There's a switch right there, and that is set to number 1. And number 1 is the needs to be turned off for serial. So we've changed that, and I'm going to put that back into the printer. Okay, now we have the 1541 drive connected. So the way it connects is that your VIC20 or your Commodore 64 will plug from there into your floppy drive, and then from the floppy drive, the second serial port goes into the printer. And then you turn on the drive, your printer, and then your VIC20. So the other ones are on. Let's turn on the VIC20. And the printer activated. Great. Let's view the content of the floppy disk using the load command. Again, apologizing for the flashing thing. I need to figure out what's going on with my capture device. But anyways, let's see. And we're accessing the drive. Okay, let's do a list. Okay, great. Now we can see the content of the disk on the screen, but let's try it to get it to the printer. And we'll be using the open 4,4 command. And it's printing. Yay! All right. So after all that, we got it printing. Fantastic. So I have a listing that's like shown on the screen, but I'm getting it in 80 columns on the printer, whereas on the screen below it's showing as a 40 column. But it's nice because what you can do like this, for example, is you can actually print them off and then cut it and stick it to the label of your floppy disk, so you know the content of the disk without having to do, load quote dollar quote $8. You would have it all on your thing, on your sleeve for your drive. So yeah, so I can use this printer for both my Apple IIe. I can use it for my K Pro. I could use it for my IBM DOS PC. I can use it for my VIC20, Commodore 64, 128. If I get an adapter for it, which I'm going to see if I can find one, is the serial to RS-232, so I can then do a test and print on the Macintosh Color Classic. And so there you go. So this is the smallest of all the printers. It's the lightest of all the printers, and it's the most versatile of all the printers. Now, is the quality as good as the Daisy Wheel on the K Pro or the ImageWriter II? Probably not. I'm sure that's got much better quality, but from what I'm doing, I'm not printing off resumes or something for work or some kind of legal documentation that I need, like I'm writing a book or something that I need this super great quality video printouts. From what I'm doing, this is more than fine. It looks great with a new ribbon. It's like a brand new printer. So yeah, I think I'm going to be using this printer on my bench for future videos. So take a look for that. Also, I'll be doing a K-Pro printer review later on with my my K-Pro 2 computer and that big huge printer. I need to get a new ribbon for it and then go from there. But hopefully you enjoyed this video. This is a cool printer. If you want just to get one printer for your bench, the Commodore MPS1250 is the one for you. Take care.